one, and we are. Wait, are we yet? And we're recording episode 365. Episode 365 with Dale motherfucking Comstock, American Badass Volume 7. We took a detour last week and we went way out into the weeds with Don the Pleb and Ted I and had the Dale Comstock show. And Dale was just they were talking about Facebook censorship. I had on Claire Lopez, a 20-year veteran of the CIA, and she came on and very matter of fact, level-headed, more level-headed than myself or anyone I've ever had on the podcast. Just very matter of fact, she was like, we know through like institutes of virology that there's gain of function research going on in Wuhan and that it's a bioweapon. I posted that on Facebook. Facebook removed it and said that we don't allow disinformation. And I was like, dude, Facebook, I'm going to trust the CIA officer. But concerning Facebook, Dale was just telling me before it, he was like, yeah, man, they're getting threats and shit. Ted I and you are getting, or no, not you, or Ted I's getting threats. But I was thinking, for everyone that's watching, it kind of reminds me of Batman. And Dale, I don't know if you've seen this Batman, but in Batman, one of the employees, again, never did I think I'd be having a conversation about Batman with Dale Comstock, but one of the employees is on to Bruce Wayne, and he goes up to the owner of the CEO of the business, and he's like, "Hey, I think Bruce Wayne's Batman, and I'd like to, I want $10 million a year to shut my mouth." And the guy goes, "So let me get this straight. You think that the CEO of this company is a billionaire who beats enemies to a pulp with his bare fists, and you want to blackmail him? Good luck." And that's all I can think of is when you say that, like, you and Ted I are getting threats. I'm like, who the fuck is trying to send death threats to like the Reapers themselves? And that's the only thing I can think of is like, you guys are the ones that when people send out death threats, they then hire you guys to carry out the death threats. Who the fuck is, I don't know, man. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't get it either, man. You're right. So, a lot of weird shit's happening. So I got banned on Facebook for 30 days for literally stating I thought only Americans were that dumb. I thought only Americans were that dumb, and I got banned for 30 days for hate speech. We live in a world of snowflakes, man. And, I don't know who these faceless fact checkers are, but I hope that one day, laws are passed where Facebook can be sued. And not only Facebook can be sued, but their fact checkers can be sued, right? I mean, let's go for all the pockets. If you're going to sit there and if you're going to tell me that as an American, I can't call myself dumb because that's hate speech, we got some serious issues, right? And the problem is, it's the reality of it is this, and I said it last week, and this is why some people don't like me, and I don't really care. When you start paying my bills, taking care of my family and feeding me, I might care what you have to say, but in the meantime, you can go fuck off, man. And so here's the deal, man. When you can't say what's on your mind, you can't have an opinion. All right, you're no longer free. When people tell you what you can say, that's what in essence are telling you is what you can think or not think. Mm-hmm. That's what they're trying to do. It's control, mind control, mm-hmm. right? Manipulation. And so we had people on there, come on and, attack, mainly Joe, and I think has something to do with some other stuff too. But ultimately, it's like, I'm going to report you to the FBI because, whatever. For what? Right? For having an opinion. And so, we've gone off the rails, man. And I don't know we're never going to get back to where we need to be, where we once were, man. So I read a quote one day, not too long ago, where it said, you can vote your way into socialism and communism, but you got to shoot your way out, right? Yeah. And it's pretty much yeah. where we're at, and so here we are, and so we're getting censored. I've got, unfortunately, I have too many threats. And the people that do threaten me, I know who they are. They're in my peer group. They're a bunch of weenies that are freaking jealous. And, for some reason, they think I'm eating out of their rice bowl. I don't know. But I really don't give a shit, man. I do my thing, you do yours, and we can all just get along. But yeah, I got slam dunked for 30 days off of Facebook for saying I only thought Americans were that dumb. Like, huh? I'm an American, right? So it's kind of like I'm calling myself dumb, and that was labeled hate speech. Actually, I got banned 4 times in 2 months for all kinds of weirdness. One time I got actually banned for 7 days for stating that for writing a story about my dog dying, right? You
Yeah.
know,
Phantom.
I wrote, and they said that could be harmful to other people. I'm like, what other people? Like snowflakes again? So here we are. We live in a society with these people that are very thin-skinned, right? And they bought into the propaganda, man. And this this propaganda hasn't been something that was instilled in the last year. It's been going on for 30 something years, man. This has been a process. It starts with education, in the schools, right? They basically brainwashed the last couple of generations into believing all this crap. They rewrite history or basically erase history, erase anything that reminds us of history. And basically, go out and tell us how, that America was created on the backs of just the black man, and all this stuff, man, that is actually not true at all, man. But I'm not saying that okay, we didn't have slaves and they didn't contribute something. Of course they did, in some way or another. But that's not how this country was built. But we fall into this trap, this propaganda trap. Not everybody. I haven't. But most people have, and you were talking earlier about the virus. And so I just read again today where the Russians came out and go, oh my God, we just discovered a new bird flu, right? 7 guys are infected at a bird farm, and I'm like, you know what? Why don't that surprise me? Because when the COVID goes away, they'll find another one. Yeah. This works, man. This shit works, right? Yeah. And I'm looking around, even here where I live in Indonesia, wherever I go, everybody's wearing a mask. I watched a woman wearing a mask in the woods the other day. I see people wearing masks in the car. And I'm like, they've been brainwashed, man. They believe they got to wear a mask, right? And so everybody becomes this nameless, faceless, anonymous person, right? And that's how we see each other, right? There was a time when I could go into the grocery store here and I could see everybody's smiley faces, and I could, we could connect, right, at some level. And now all I see is eyes, and I don't know if they're like hateful eyes or what kind of eyes they are, right? And so, and what does that do? It actually makes me less, less sociable, less likely to approach people, say hello, because we're all these like droids, man. Yes. And this is all, and people think, oh, it's bullshit, it's conspiracy, theories and bullshit. Actually, people need to read some history books. They need to read some real literature on sociology and psychology. And when you do, you'll figure out, no, this ain't no joke, man. This has serious implications down the road. Yeah. So anyways, I'm going off a little rant here. No. But about last week, but that was some of the blowback we had.
No, it's fine. It's absolutely true. Look, the Empire State Building is made out of tens of thousands of limestone blocks, all right? It's not just the Empire State Building, and if you talked about limestone blocks, you wouldn't hear a bunch of architects saying limestone blocks are just conspiracies. No, what you would want to do if you wanted to fuck up the Empire State, I guess wave to the FBI and the NSA, if you wanted to take down a skyscraper, you wouldn't go try to take it down with a plane like 9/11. You would go fuck with like the steel mill where the girders are made. So if you want to take down a nation or a global society, you're not going to come out with the strong arm of everyone shut up. You're going to start at the base level. What do? You people can't hang out. Put a mask over their face, and when they do start talking online, censor them and ban them. That's how you destroy the whole thing. Is start with the bottom figures. But
exactly,
we've beat COVID. We've beat COVID to death with last week. So let's dive back into American Badass. And for my buddy Joe Udell, who's been on this podcast before and is a massive fan of Dale, so much so that before I had Dale on for the first time, I texted Joe. I was like, hey, Joe, I'm having on a Delta Force member. This was like last March. And he sends me a picture of you, and he goes, if it's not Dale Comstock, I'm not watching. And I was like, well, funny thing is it is, asshole. Point being is Joe asked me, when's Dale doing a mercenary episode? And so I'm going to ask Dale now for everyone, because no one believes me. When I say I've talked to him, they're like, no, you're not. You're not telling us anything. So, Dale, when are we going to have a mercenary episode? Let the people hear your words.
Yeah, so, we've agreed to, I'm looking out the window because it's pouring rain again. So, by the way, I'm calling you guys from Bali, Indonesia, man. And right now it's rainy season. And sure shit, I'm going to have to ride home tonight on my motorcycle in the rain. So it's going to be like riding a jet ski, man. It's crazy how hard it rains here. But so we've talked about going through my chapters in my book, American Badass. So you're actually hearing it, from me, my voice telling the stories. I won't tell in the detail that's in the book, but I'll tell you my story, in the time that we have, chapter by chapter. So my goal is to get through the whole book. And then I'm actually, at the same time as we're, right now, I'm actually writing my second book. Now, I started out last year writing 5 books. And then I realized that I just probably bit off way more than I can chew, just because I'm very busy. And so I decided to try to condense everything together into one book. And tentatively, I'm going to call the book Apex Man. I know now that everybody's going to run out and go to copyright Apex Man. It's like, this is my book, that's okay. I got other names in mind too, right? But I got to call it something for now. So anyways, that book will have a lot of my life stories from post 2011, right? After I kind of transitioned from my government work to the Hollywood stuff and back into the private sector security. And, but I also got involved in a lot of other things, to include mercenary work, bodyguard work, investigations, if you will. And, and I got to watch how I couch some of this stuff, because it could be taken the wrong way, but lack of a better term, human trafficking, but in a good way, right? Not kids or women, but trying to save people's ass, right?
Sure.
Get them out of a jam, right? And so, I'm sure that somebody goes, I'm gonna call the FBI right now. He just said human trafficking, right? Whatever. So what's sad is that we live in a world now where everybody takes everything you say out of context, right? And they twist it and turn it. It's sad. We live in this crazy ass world with these crazy ass people. I keep saying it all the time, the dumb masses, the dumb masses and the dumb asses. And that's about 95% of the population. They will buy anything for $1, man. As long as they don't have to do the due diligence, and really analyze something. It's like, just give it to me and okay. And I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, my goal is that down the road, once we're done here, is to hopefully I've got the book ready. And actually, what I'm going to do on my book, by the way, is I think we mentioned this last week. Nobody reads books anymore, right? If they can't listen to it or watch it on freaking Netflix, they're not interested. That's the truth. That's sad, man. That's sad, right? So
truth, though,
yeah. What I'm going to do is after I write it out, I'm going to create an audio book out of it. I'm going to make some hard copies of it.
Yeah.
That way I have them for those that want them. I can autograph them, send them, whatever, but they'll be there. But I'm not going to give my money to any publishers or Amazon or anybody else. I'm just going to do it all myself. But the stories will be available, right? And then you and I will do this again, where we go through that book, and I'll tell you the stories, which I think will be a lot of fun. A lot of cool things have happened to me since 2011. And for anybody who's listening out there, I actually retired out of the Army in 2001, about 6 weeks before 9/11. And then I got basically recruited by the government. Went back to work for the government, but not the U.S. Army. But I was doing the same thing I did in the Army, but for the government, with less Americans, maybe 1 or 2 around me, and a lot of indige, doing the same thing. Probably actually more dangerous than I ever did in the military, man. No doubt about it. And so, and then 2011 is when I basically, walked away from that and resigned. I didn't get fired. I didn't quit. I just resigned and decided, it's time for a change of life, man. I mean, when you're at that time, I was 47, 48, and I realized it's time to probably hang the guns up a little bit and start doing some other stuff. So
yeah, you said that in your book, or I won't spoil it, but when you're in the Humvee and it dawned on you, you go, hey, it's kind of like the be wary of the old men in a profession where men die young. You were like, hey, in your mind, you're like, I've made it this far. You're like, let's stop rolling the dice. I've gone far. Let's stop rolling the dice.
So let's use that to segue into the story's coming, but to segue in now. So when I wrote my book, all right, there's some acronyms that I use in there, and I have to use those acronyms hopefully, the readers are, savvy enough to understand that, I'm bound by certain laws, non-disclosures, things like that. So I have to watch how I say things. And then more importantly, I cannot talk about, names, name people, name places, times, events. I have to I have to couch it in a way that nobody could use that, especially the bad guys, against us, right? So so that's what I did with this book. So I will tell you at this point, if you're paying close attention to the reading and what I'm saying to you, I retired out of the Army in 2001. All right, prior to 9/11. Now all this other stuff happened after that, right? So, who did it happen with? And so, again, without coming out and saying exactly who it happened with, I think most people could figure it out. I use the acronym ACEs, right, which stands for Asymmetric Clandestine Elite Services, right? It's some bullshit, right? There's no. That actual acronym is something I created to basically define an organization I work for without actually calling out the organization, right? So mining operations security. Yes, I have I am trained as an OPSEC manager through the NSA, so I understand, OPSEC, and I had quite a bit of counseling and coaching and legal advice concerning how I write my book. And so, it's been out for a long time. I've never been challenged on it legally. So, I think I did the right thing. My goal is not to glorify, my experiences with certain organizations or people or anything like that, but just to tell something about my life story, right? I have to account for some 10 years of my life. And so that's what I'm doing. And so, all right, moving on. So I ended up in, we'll call it ACES, right? We call it short for Asymmetrical Clandestine Elite Services. We'll call it ACES from here on out. So here I was in Iraq with ACES, and so things got even more interesting. So I've been going back and forth in and out of Afghanistan, Iraq, some of the hot spots around the world, working with one or two other Americans, with my skill sets. And which was really kind of interesting because the work that we did was as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than the time I was in the military, right? So, and why do I say that? Because when you're going out to hit a target and you got a couple Americans with you, and that is it, and the rest are indigenous guys, they're basically, it's you and them. And you don't have necessarily air support. You don't have a quick reaction force behind you waiting to get you out of trouble like the big military. You don't have that type of support. It's a game changer, right? And so that's where I was in this world. Now, I really enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the people I was around. I felt like, I was making a difference. And just the opportunity to leverage my skills that I had learned all these years and train, mentor, organize, lead, people that came to barely speak English into combat. And a lot of them couldn't speak English. I had to use a translator and take them on combat operations doing, some serious, we're not talking about, checkpoints, like checkpoint, no, we're talking about, hitting targets, going after high value targets, doing close quarter battle, and surgical strikes, basically going after the big guys, on the deck. So that to me was very satisfying, especially when you can take, a bunch of farmers and, mechanics and goat herders, and organize them, put them in a uniform, arm them, teach them how to use a weapon, teach them how to use tactics, how to communicate, how to plan, how to do medical, you apply, their medical training that we give them. All those things that any soldier would need to know, training these guys that literally, like I just said, were farmers and, goat herders, out of the freaking hills and the deserts, and then organizing them to go and hit, go head on with, possibly former military guys from the, the Iraqis, the Afghanis, and some of the other countries we went to, and go head to head with these guys and win. That was really satisfying. And more importantly for me was being able to help with the global war on terrorism and hope to and make a difference. And so I want to put something out there real quick. I just had a flash, kind of a thought came across my mind. So I just noticed a couple days ago. So I'm on IMBD, right, which is the page for anyone's a Hollywood actor, or stunt guy, whatever, right? Been in any kind of productions. They have your profile and they list all the
International Movie
movies.
Database.
Yeah, right. So they list all the stuff you have. Well, I haven't been on there in like years, man. I looked on there and all my everything's on there that I've done, which is amazing that they actually went through and updated it, right, and kept it pretty current. But on the bottom was a block that says trivia, and the trivia says, "Did you know that after 9/11, Dale Comstock had already retired prior to 9/11, and the Special Forces was offering." Amputees and disabled veterans and retirees an opportunity to come back and fight the global war on terror because they needed their help. And Dale Comstock refused. And because of that, he was barred. He lost his security clearance. Now, let me tell you, that's a crock of horse shit. And I know who did that. And I'm just going to say his first name is Michael. All right. He's a lump of shit. We've talked about this guy before because he actually stated it on another page. And I just thought, well, whatever, he can say whatever he wants. But now I found out it's on the internet. Right. And so I've already contacted the IMBD to have it removed and flagged that. And anybody that posts it will be called out on it. But so my point here, where I'm trying to go with this is I spent the next 9.5 years after I left the Army fighting the global war on terrorism, literally the first guy kicking in doors and shooting people in their face. Okay. I never not wanted to go back and do my part. In fact, I was disappointed that it happened after I retired. And I had other irons in the fire. I had a company, had a lot of stuff going on, and which would have meant if I went back to the Army, I'd have had to lose everything, lots of money, put my family, bankrupt us. But I still did it. I managed to do it in a different way. And I actually did it in a way that I felt like I was more effective. So, so this is where we're going with these stories here right now. So, I want to talk about one of my rotations, right? And I won't go into the exact organization and location, but it was in outside of Baghdad. And this particular one, if you look at the chapter, it's Sadr City. What happened in Sadr City? Well, Sadr City, man, was like, it was, you mentioned Batman earlier, right? Gotham City, man. This was like Gotham City, man. You just don't, you go into Gotham City, you go into Sadr City, it's not going to work. It's not going to be a good night for you, man, because, Sadr City was locked down by, what's his name? Sadr, the imam. Mm-hmm. And they basically, this was like a gang turf, man. You're not coming in there, unopposed. You're gonna get hit, and so there were a lot of targets in Sadr City, and people used that as a haven to go to hide weapons, for security, right? The bad guys did, and so going in there was always, is a risky proposition, but we didn't not go because we were scared. We knew we had to, but we also knew, man, this is one of the spookier places to go. And so I'm going to tell the story about what happened one night. We decided we needed to go in there. And so the mosques were off limits, right? You can't go into a mosque, it's freaking, sacrilegious and it's insulting, blah, 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 all the typical political bullshit. All right. But we knew that they were hiding weapons and fighters in the mosque, right? And they knew they can't come in here. We keep all our shit in here, right? They didn't play by the same damn rules, right? And so we knew that. And so one night we decided, we know that there's one mosque that they're holding up weapons, or all kinds of stuff's going on there. And so we go in, and the plan is to go in and hit this mosque, and then basically flex off this mosque to a secondary target, a secondary objective in Sadr City. So we're going to hit one and it'll roll right to the other one. Since we're already in the beehive, let's go ahead and get as much honey as we can, right? And so, so I remember we went in, and it's the creepiest feeling. If you can just imagine, there's no lights. You got all these, building, everything's just, like row houses jammed together, different, I don't know why the Middle East and the rest of the world, but they're not very organized when it comes to laying out their city streets and their neighborhoods. They just build shit everywhere. Oh, we'll just put something here and build a road around it,
Yeah,
And it's like really
like
bizarre
like
stuff.
Europe as opposed to like playing sorry like as opposed to playing like New York where it's a grid. Yeah, you see it in a lot of older cities like Europe where it's just
Yeah,
sprawling.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. And so, but it was dark because there's not a lot of power there, and it was a war zone, man. A lot of broken shit laying everywhere. A lot of rubble. People were having a hard time because it was a war. So I remember we roll in, and then it's pitch dark, and it's spooky, man. It's quiet, Um, you just had a very eerie feeling, which was not untypical. It was very typical. That's where it happens. It doesn't matter if you're in Afghanistan or Iraq. You go into these spooky towns, man, and it's spooky. And so, but everybody's watching you. They're watching you from the shadows. It's like, they're there. You
Fuck
just can't
that.
always see them, but they're
Fuck
there,
that.
right? And we went in, I remember, and a lot of times what they'll do, or what they used to do, is once you entered, they basically sealed the back door on the way in. Basically, they jammed the roads up so you couldn't back out, and they set up roadblocks in front of you. So once you were in, you were contained, and then they start hitting you from the top, right? And the reason they hit you from the top is because most of the armored vehicles don't have a lot of armor on top, so there's soft skin on the top, so it's easier to penetrate the roofs with RPGs and different machine guns and stuff. So that's typically what they do. And they also have, a pretty good communication system where once you enter the neighborhood, everybody knows you're there.
Mm-hmm.
They've already notified everybody that, the Americans are here. And so I remember going in this particular night. So far, we had been unopposed. We dismounted our vehicles. We got off. We walked. We deployed snipers on the rooftops, and basically we were moving towards the objective area. Once we got to it, we lined up, and then we breached, right? So on the mosque, that particular night, we didn't actually blow the door. We kicked the door in. It was, it's a mosque, right? I'd be a little suspicious if they reinforced the door, and we were prepared for that. We would have blown it if we had to, but it's better just to kick the door in, not make a lot of noise, go in and do your business, and then whatever happens. So we went in and we cleared this place, and had a dry hole. We call it dry hole. Nothing there, right? But we had good intel that said there was. It's very likely that they got counter intel, said, hey, these guys are coming, clean the shit out. That's how it works over there, right? You can't trust anybody. And so, we rolled out, and actually the Army came in with, their tanks, the M1s, and they were standing outside of Sadr City initially. We kept them outside after we entered, and after we hit, we brought them in because we figured more than likely we're going to make contact, at that point, once we're at the mosque, we're coming off the mosque, and that's when we need the most help. And I remember then we had the helicopters coming in, flying around and pulling some air support for us. And then we decided to, so nothing happened on that one. We flexed to the next target. We breached. And the building was, I believe, 4 stories high. And here's what was really amazing, right? So my Iraqis, we train them in CQB perfectly, right? I mean, now there's different ways to do what we call close quarter battle. And one of the techniques is called strong wall, where the guys enter the room and then they basically, line up on the length of one wall facing across the room with their weapons, right? So why that? Because one, it's simple. Two, you don't have to worry so much about somebody running into the field of fire and getting shot by their own guys, right? Kind of keeps everybody organized and safe, and all the guns are arrayed in one direction, shooting down in range into a room. There's other techniques that are a little bit more advanced, and I've got many opinions on that as well. And so I'll share that another time. But just the fact that these guys would go in and clear a room with strong walling it, and then they had to reassemble and move into another room and do it again and again and again, right? So there was a formation and there was a standard operating procedure, right? And it was a process that took time if done properly, right? And I was always amazed at how when we actually breached the building, within seconds, it was clear. I'm like, what the hell, man? It's like, it shouldn't have happened that fast. But what happened was these guys were like ants, man, like army ants overrunning a termite mound, right? As soon as they went through that room, man, they just, I mean, they were wide open, man. And I remember this particular night, they go in through the door, and it could have been 20 seconds later, they're already on the fourth floor on the roof shooting people. I'm like, how in the hell did they get up there that fast, right? So, when we talk about close quarter, when we talk about tactical training, and the guys that are out there that are military, some of you might appreciate this, some of you might not like this, but here's the reality of it. You can train and do everything methodically and perfectly step by step, and everything procedurally is done in a certain order, a certain amount of time. But the reality is when you throw stress in there, especially when you're working with indige, it's like they forgot everything you taught them. It's like, what are they doing, man? Just, it's not methodical anymore. They sacrifice, security for speed, which sometimes you can do that, but security is probably not a good idea. But so I remember we went in, and my team went in, and by the time I got to the door, it was like, these guys were already gone. In the next room, up the stairs, and I heard gunshots on the roof. I'm like, holy shit! By the time I got up the stairs, there's bodies laying everywhere, and I remember the guy that we wanted was dead, laying on the roof, and he had about four at the time, basically satellite phones on him, right? And so in all his pockets, he was wearing the white. I can't remember what you call it now, but anyways, it looked like the white bed sheet, right? So the gown, and he was wearing that, and he was laying there, and actually what happened was he was trying to get away, and when he ran on the roof, our snipers were on another roof waiting for him, and one of the guys plugged him actually shot him through the shoulder, and it went through his shoulder and went into his chest cavity. And really the amazing thing is when I came across the guy, there was nobody there except him, and and I look at him and I'm like, is this guy asleep? Because he looked like he was laying down, freaking like sleeping, and but I saw the hole in his shoulder, and I knew that he took it through and through from the snipers, and so but he had all the cell phones and stuff on him, which is really what we wanted, because cell phones is gold, man. It's got all the intel. We can get off the phone numbers and off the cell phones. We know the network, right, and it just continues to grow, right, and so. We got what we wanted. He was a bad guy. He'd done a lot of bad things, and but that night we dusted him. So then I remember, we collected all our intel. Did what's called SSE, and basically when we talk about SSE, it's basically doing a search of the area of the room. Going through everything, collecting any intelligence, anything of any kind of value that you think might help with further operations. And you inventory it all, you collect it all, right? You bag it, and you take it with you for analysis later on. And so you got to bear in mind when you do something like that, the longer you're on target doing that, the longer you're going to be exposed to a counter assault, right, or an ambush. And we're talking Soldier City, so we know, we just stirred the hornet's nest, and so. Finally, we got everything packed up. We're loading the vehicles. We're starting to leave Soldier City. And we had certain routes that we're going to follow to get back. And we had a bird up in the air, right? Basically, if you will, we'll call it a surveillance reconnaissance aircraft, right? So it always flew at night. It could loiter for a long, long time. It had a lot of high-end optics on it, radio equipment, surveillance stuff, sensors, and it was the eye in the sky, man. And I tell you what, man, that aircraft saved probably a lot of lives out there. And it was nice to know he was out there watching, because he was watching, right? And so I remember that we're in our vehicles, we're heading back, and we start to make a right turn, and we hear, well, first, before we get to make the right turn, we hear that there's like two guys on the road setting an IED in for us. And like, oh crap, man, they're getting ready to freaking lay us, hit us with a mine or something, right? So and then they blew themselves up, which was really funny, right? So after the first report was, guys are placing IEDs, getting ready to blow you guys up, and then, oh, never mind, they just blew themselves up with one IED, right? Like, okay, cool, right? And we go blowing past those guys, and we go down another road, make a right turn, and it's kind of like a big, wide dirt road, man. And it's a long road. And then there's an intersection. And remember, this is like probably 2:00 in the morning. Okay. And there's no traffic out there. Nobody's supposed to be out there. There's a curfew, right? All this stuff. And again, the bird reports back, goes, look, there's a black Mercedes. It looks like a black Mercedes, a dark Mercedes. That's pretty good how good their optics were, man. Pulls up on the intersection and looks like they just placed an IED and it just sped away. Like, oh shit, here we go again. Sure enough, man. After about I don't know, I think my vehicle, I believe, was a third vehicle. As soon as the second vehicle rounded the corner and my vehicle was getting around, the IED goes off, right? So it's like a boom, big ass explosion, but no damage, nothing, nobody got hurt. You know, it didn't affect any of the vehicles, and we didn't slow down either. Talk about it. We just get on the gas, roll, and keep rolling. So I think I'm trying to remember how many vehicles we had in this formation. We probably had about a total of 6 to 8 vehicles and armored vehicles. And so it's, you know, it's wide open. Now we're hauling ass down the road. And if you can just imagine, so you're driving down this dirt road. Okay. It's pretty clear and open. It's Iraq. And off to the right side, about 150 meters off the road, you had like nothing but apartment complexes. Right. And this went on for probably over half a mile, these apartment complexes. And when we made that turn, the IED went off. It was like every window on every floor of those apartment complexes opened up on us with machine gun fire, AK-47s, RPGs. It was like we were running a gauntlet wide open. And so, you know, the top gunners are just freaking going at it. You know, we're taking rounds coming back. And I remember sitting inside this armored vehicle going, I can't do a damn thing about it. I'm just sitting here going along for the ride because it's an armored vehicle. What am I can't you get the window down, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, we run the gauntlet and we finally make it back that night. But let me so I left out an important part. So let me back all the way up to the beginning. When we first left our gate from our base to go on this operation. So we leave the gate, we roll down the road about 200 yards, and we notice there's a large group of men out there, and they're having an altercation with the police, okay, the Iraqi police. And it's a big crowd, and we got to drive through it and get to the objective. And so I still remember, you know, it got pretty heated. We could see it getting pretty heated as we're driving through, but we're not going to stop. This is not our business.
Yeah.
This is the cops and these guys' business, right? So as we roll through, all of a sudden, one of the civilians takes a shot at a cop. As soon as he did that, it was all she wrote, because when guns are fired, man, our guys start opening up, you know, to secure our vehicles, man, and just start laying waste these dudes, man, just all over the street, you know. Jesus. And we went on. That's when we went to Solder City that night, and then we come off, and we had the IEDs, and then basically, you know, getting hit by a linear ambush to our flank for probably a good half a mile, man. It was a running gunfight, but we got out there, got back to the camp, and then I remember. What we would do is we pull all the SSC off, and you know, we laid it out every night, you know, and organized it, take pictures, labeled it, you know, and then if there's anybody tied to it, you know, we got it off this guy, you know, his name was, you know, so everything was connected, right, for, you know, prosecution, which is all a bunch of bullshit. But and then we would take the guys that we, you know, that survived this thing. And then fly them to another area, to a jail, right? Hold them, you know, secure them there. So that was, you know, my little experience in. Are
days like that days that maybe you yearn for, just like a tactical nuke, where you're like, why the fuck did we go do that? Just fucking.
Well, actually, you know what? You do kind of you do actually look forward to it, right? We did them every night. Every night we sometimes hit multiple targets a night. We were like, I mean, it was crazy, right? So I would sleep, you know, we didn't get done with our ops until about 5 o'clock in the morning with everything, right? SSC before the sun came up, and then, you know, high five, everybody go to bed and freaking sleep, you know, and then wake up sometime in the afternoon. Usually I'd go work out for a while and get my shit together, take a shower, go eat some dinner. And then we had our op order in the afternoon. For the night's mission, right? So the op order would start. We do all the planning, rehearsals. We monitor any surveillance that was out there, and you know, basically developing the enemy situation, right? So that's what you do, even in the military operations order. So, and then at some point we would go, okay, all right, it's a go. Here's the time we're heading out the doors, in the vehicles, and we're on our way. So that literally went on every night, man, every night, for months at a time, man. And it was cool, because you look forward to that.
Yeah.
It's tiring, but it's also super risky, right? If you're going to roll out the gate every night, you always got to expect that somebody's going to be waiting for you one of these nights, right, on the way out the door.
You're playing
And
Russian roulette, right?
yeah, and so even that, right, required counter surveillance, different types of methodology, right, to protect us. Always, you got to protect the force, and so sometimes you got to change times. Sometimes you're just kind of like, hey, we're not going out tonight, freaking just whatever, right? Yeah, or maybe we're gonna go out another gate, whatever, right? We're gonna do something different, right? So, but it was always that way, and it was that serious. The bad guys weren't stupid, and after a while, and they were watching us too, right? And they knew who was putting the hurting on them the most, and they did everything they could to, in fact, every night when we came back, all right, we rolled back into the compound. For sure, what you can expect is a mortar attack. It's coming. Every night we got a revenge mortar attack, right? So, the mortars would land on us for a while. It's like our payback for coming out and disrupting their night, right? So it was that. It's how it was, and that's what you could expect. But I actually enjoyed it, all the way around. I mean, it was actually, man. I mean, when I think back about it, it's like, how cool is that, man? I mean, you get to go out and do your job, man. You get to fight the war on terrorism. You get to take it to the bad guys. You get to go to the gym. You get plenty of rest. You eat pretty good. You got good gear. You're around good guys, and you get to do it again and again and again and again.
It's what you train for. It's guys like you, like for me, I look at it, of course, and that's why I'm like, just nuke it. I don't want to go there, right? I'm clearly choosing the life where I sit in a leather chair and do a podcast. But I mean, for guys like you didn't go into this to like, play it safe. Like you didn't go into Delta Force or ACE OGA to just be like, let's play it safe. Like, I mean, guys like you, like you're built differently. That's what that's what you train for. Like there's of course you want to do that. If it wasn't risky, you probably wouldn't want to do it. Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's true. I was reading, I think we talked about this before. I read something not too long ago where the studies are starting to show that maybe those that are soldiers have a certain type of DNA, are genetically born to be soldiers more so than others. And I don't remember if we were talking about it or if I was talking to somebody else about it, but I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I'm, so I'm reflecting a little bit back on a lot of guys I know that were good soldiers, but suffer from PTSD, and have a lot of issues. And then I think about other guys that don't have any issues, right, and seeing just as much, right, and be honest with you, I feel like I'm one of those guys that I'm not affected by the war. In fact, and I'll just take this moment to talk about it, kind of reflect a little bit about my experiences over there from a emotional side of me. Is for me, going to combat and the risk of dying, I accepted all of that, and I was fine with that, man, because I'd made, I resolved my own death at that point. I resolved my own death at a very early age, right? I knew that if I die, certain things were going to happen or not going to happen, and things were going to be taken care of, but it is what it is. And I don't spend a lot of time reflecting on that, or at least I didn't back then. As I get older now, I appreciate my life a lot more, and I'm a lot more cautious. Why? Because I have a lot more invested in children, family, things like that. So for their sake, I need to be a little bit more cautious. But one of the things I remember for me personally that I had issues with coming back was not the horror of war, not the fear of, oh my God, what if I get shot or get blown up? Actually, none of that fazed me, not even a little bit, man. I was never afraid of that, right? And now I have, I tell people there are two kinds of people, actually there's three kinds of people. There's people that are just scared cowards. Then there's the brave, and then there's the fearless, right? And talking about the last two, what's the difference between a brave person and a fearless person? The brave person is willing to do something in spite of their fear, right? They're willing to go ahead and face, face that fear, right? But a fearless person is too stupid to realize they might be in trouble, right? And they just throw all caution to the wind. And that's us when we're teenage boys, right? We do stupid shit like jumping off the roofs of a building, right? Evil shitting on our bicycles, stuff that could get us really hurt, but we do it, right? That's called fearlessness, and that's stupid, right? Especially when you're talking about as we get older and we talk about life or death. So, um, it's not that I was fearless, and it's not that I was overly courageous either. It was just like I was very confident, and I think that needs to be pointed out, right? There's a big difference between courage and confidence, and I had the confidence to know that I'm really good at what I do, and I'm really good at fighting with or without my weapons, and I felt very confident that if all things are equal, I'm going to win,
Mm-hmm.
and even if things are unequal in the other guy's favor, I still have a pretty good chance of beating him, and which well, that story will come out when I talk about my mercenary work down the road, right? So, because that's actually to me like the UFC of combat, right? When you go down range and your guns and your shit that you have is everything you got off the black market or you sewed yourself in your hooch to go fight with, and that's what the bad guy has. That's and it becomes mano a mano skill set versus their skill set. That's
That's the
that's the
pinnacle.
difference. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's the Olympics. Yeah.
Exactly right. So, so I'm very confident. I was always very confident, and I was also, had resolved my own death, and I accepted my fate if it was going to be that, right? And so I wasn't encumbered by fear. I never was encumbered by fear. I never like, oh my God, I hope we don't get blown up. Hope we don't get an ID. Hope I don't get shot in the face. None of that fazed me, man. None of that because I was so confident that I could win. And this
Yeah.
wasn't being because I was stupid, and it wasn't because I was fearless. It was just confidence,
It's
right? There's a big difference, man.
it's yeah,
You know?
it's knowing who yeah, it's yeah, it's like that saying like you can only be brave in the presence of fear. Otherwise it's not bravery. Bravery is going,
Yeah,
this is terrifying. Grab your nuts, scope it out, take a what's it called? Like a scientific gamble and be like, all right, let's go for it. Fearlessness is like, I got this shit. You walk out and you die.
yeah, exactly, right. So, anyways, but my issues coming out of any of those wars. And by the way, for anybody who's listening out there, if you want to know more about me, go to go to episode 1. That's where I talk about my background. But just real quickly, I was a Delta Force operator, I was a Green Beret, I was an infantryman, paratrooper, long range scout in the 82nd Airborne Division. I worked for the government, as a paramilitary operative for them for 9.5 years. I worked as a mercenary. I've seen a lot of combat since 1983 to the present. To about 4 years ago, actually, that was my last stint out the door. But anyways, where I was going with this is the only issue I have with combat is not oh my God, I almost died. I don't stay awake at night. I don't wake up with sweats. And I'm not knocking anybody that does. I really ain't. I'm not, man. We're all a little bit different.
Yeah.
And me personally, my biggest issues, and I'll be honest about it, I had to go see a therapist about it. There came a point where I was like, okay, I need a little help, man, because my issue was seeing kids
Yeah.
screaming and dying and women screaming and dying, right?
Yeah.
Because that actually I could relate to more
Yeah.
so, right? Beating men down and killing them, that's easy, man.
Yeah.
And they got into this normal. They're what they're signing up for, so no big deal, right?
Yeah.
The women and kids were the innocent ones that got caught up in this crap, and when I heard these kids screaming and even these women screaming, all I could think about was my
Yeah.
kids and my wives, right? Oh my God, man, my
Yeah.
sisters and my mom, right? And so, those screams still, man, I still hear them, man. There are times where we've had to go through the doors going after their old man, brothers and nephews, and everybody's having a freaking meeting, and going to have to go in there and freaking probably let the air out of them, and the women or kids are freaking out, Those are the kind of things that, you think about because I personally directly relate to them because of my own kids, and there's a story I'll share with you guys later on in another episode where, I actually had to pick a kid up off the street and I'm carrying him in my arms right during an assault. And I'm like, all I could think of was holding my boy, and trying to calm him down with my weapon in my other hand as I'm doing all this. But so that's where, my issues came, and other issues, believe it or not, death and peacetime I've had to deal with. That's another story. I think I opened up with that in the beginning with Mike Donatelli dying in my arms.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kind of things, man, that for me, they weigh kind of heavily, or did, and it's not that I don't think about them anymore. It's not that they don't bother me, but you have to figure out how to resolve all that if you want to go on with your life. And so moving on,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, I mean, not at all, not that it's at all the same, but I mean, sometimes seeing a therapist is the only thing you can do. I mean, it's not like I haven't had a tough life, but I mean, dude, is after my brother committed suicide. Went about 2 years before I was finally like, I can't do this on my own. I was like, I got to talk to somebody. There's some things that it's just, and I think there's a stigma, and I know from at least there is for me, is before I never wanted to because I saw it as weak. I was like, you go to a doctor when you're sick, and I was like, I don't want to. I can handle this. But there's a stigma where people don't want to talk about the fact, I got to go talk to someone. But I mean, dude, if your arm's broken, no one goes, hey, look at that pussy. He's going to the doctor to get a cast. Most
Yeah.
of the time, people they won't say that. They'll be like, get in my car. I'm going to drive you to the doctor. So with psychiatry, I mean, well, the reason I bring it up is because you said, believe it or not, I had to go see a therapist. I don't think you should even have to say, believe it or not. Like I think that shows you're human. And a second note, real quick, is Andy Stumpf, who was in Dev Crew, SEAL Team 6. I saw he was on Rogan a couple times, but I remember there's one line he said several years ago, and what you said, he was like, he's like, I don't miss sleep at night. He's like, I don't dwell on this shit. I don't. Anybody, what he said is, but I don't knock those guys that do. And he's like, the difference, and he talked about, he's like, with tier one, he's like we're the apex, we're predators. We go out and we target guys in the middle of the night, at the most inopportune time. We don't play fair. We come in with overwhelming force and we smoke them, and then we leave and we make sure no one can sleep. He's like, that's a lot different than if you're an enlisted man and you're just going out on a patrol every day and you're just waiting for that IED to go off. And he's like, that is what
Yeah.
drives men crazy. And that's what gives you PTSD. He was like, I would rather go be in Delta or DevGru than go be an enlisted man. He was like, that would give anyone PTSD. It's just a
Sure.
difference of things.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I
Yeah.
agree 100% with that, and but
Yeah. Sorry.
so yeah, no, and those are all things that you got to go deal with them sometimes, and sometimes you just need confirmation that you're thinking the right way, that you're because ultimately your healing starts from within, man. Nobody can talk you into healing, right? And really, when you go see a therapist, he just becomes a sounding board,
Yeah.
right? You tell him what's going on, and he's like, "Yep, tell me more," right? And you're kind of having this cathartic moment, right, where you're getting it all out, and you do a little bit of analysis, and a little introspection, and you kind of sort things out, and hopefully you'll walk away from it going, okay, I think I got it. I think I got it fixed, right? And or at least enough where I can live with it, and so. And I've never had a problem living with any of that. Unfortunately, I just wish that some things could have been a little bit different. But everything. I think sometimes it is what it is. I'm kind of an existentialist. Whatever happens, happens. But life goes on. But anyways, moving on a little bit.
Hey,
So I was
Dale,
going to go to this.
keep talking. I got to go piss real quick. Keep talking.
Again, every time we talk, you got to go to the piss.
Fuck you. It's because it's fuck you, Dale.
You need to get one of those tubes, man. You like race car drivers have? I know. With a hose that goes all the way to your toilet, man. So, anyways, so moving on. My next one of my other stints was in Tikrit, right, which some of you may know was the home for Saddam Hussein, right? That's pretty much his hometown. And Tikrit was, again, they were not very receptive to having us there. And it was one of those, it was one of those places you didn't want to travel freely, and you always had to be guarded, man. Bad place. So I spent some time there, and kind of funny because the area that I was in, they were all government buildings. When I say government quarters, right? They were very nice, high end, I can't even call them homes. They were mansions, literally mansions for all the, the generals and high ranking officers. And I mean, they live like kings. They live really, really, really well. And we just basically occupied all these homes and use them as our areas for staging operations out of. But we spent a lot of time every night getting mortared. There was always a gunfight around the perimeter outside the gate, on the street. And a lot of, I mean, it was just amazing. Every night you could hear it going on. And even during the daytime, you go up on the roof and watch a gunfight between the Americans, our guys out front and the bad guys. And I've watched a lot of bad things happen there as well, right, to Americans. Some things I look back and like, man, that just sucks. That guy never saw that coming, and he just got vaporized by an RPG. And these are Americans. But so one day, Tikrit was an interesting place for a lot of reasons. We hit a lot of targets in and around that area looking for Saddam Hussein. Little did we know he wasn't far outside of Tikrit, underground. As most of you know how the story goes, he was actually hiding underground, and we actually had sources that would come in that would tell us, yeah, they just saw him in a pickup truck, at a gas station, and we thought, yeah, bullshit. They're just trying to collect some money, right? Because if you give us good intel, we're going to pay you, right? And they come back. But actually, this one guy was like dead on, man. And what we couldn't understand was at the time, there was a bounty, $25 million bounty out for Saddam Hussein's head. $25 million. And people actually knew where this guy was. They had actually seen him, but they didn't report him. We're like, what is going on here, man? I mean, 20 people were more interested in protecting Saddam Hussein than collecting $25 million, which is like mind-boggling that they did that. But this was in and around Tikrit, but they were very loyal to this guy, right? And just kind of share some experiences. So before I go into some things that happened to me at Tikrit, I had an opportunity to go to like Baghdad, for example, and look at some of these, you heard all the stories about his sons, Uday, Qusay, and the sex palaces and stuff. Literally, they literally had a palace downtown Baghdad that was, basically their Playboy, estate for those guys. And what they would do, swimming pools, sex dungeons and rooms and all kinds of crap, and these guys would go out. Well, they would send their soldiers out, right, to go collect up the prettiest girls they could find on the street. And it didn't matter if you were married or not. If you were hot, you're going to party, right? And so that was the kind of shit that was going on. They would roll these girls up, women up against their will. They'd take them to this palace. And of course, and I've seen the rooms. I went through them, they had everything there, they had the chains and the whips and the bullshit, they drugged the girls, they got them drunk, they threatened and intimidated them, but basically they raped the shit out of a lot of women over there. And when they got done with them, they kicked them out the door, until the next party and somebody else was going to be it. And so I had an opportunity to see all that. And I realized then, I said, man, I don't give a freak what anybody says about, we're only over there because of the oil, which, by the way, was bullshit, because in the last 4 years while Trump was in office, we've been oil independent. We haven't relied on we don't need nobody's oil, right? So that's we're not dependent on anybody else's oil. And if we were, it's because all of you other people out there that don't want us drilling our oil, you sent us there. So you take responsibility for that, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, so it wasn't about the oil. I really don't believe it was about the oil. And so what I saw was this. I saw a real humanitarian crisis. I saw people getting killed, getting abused by people in power, okay, getting taken advantage of. I saw, we had a guy come in, he was a source, and he was a farmer, and he was crying, right? He came to us because we're trying to collect information. He thought he might have some valuable information, and he told us a story. And as a farmer, his land was connected to one of the brothers. I can't remember, it was Uday or Qusay, one of the two brothers of sons of Saddam Hussein. And his cows had traveled over to the other, one of the Hussein's property. And he went to go get it. He was run off. He's like, hey, but those are my cows. And they're like, no, get out of here. They're our cows. No, he goes, but those are my cows. No, they're our cows now, right? So this happened. And then basically what the next step was, they're like, okay, you want to argue with us? let's see whose cows these are. And they literally raped and killed this guy's whole family, wife and kids and everybody in front of him, and go, whose cows are they? Right? It's like, fuck, you could just have the cows, man. You know, I mean, he wrecked his life, man. That's the kind of shit that was going on over there, right? And so I don't want to hear this crap about oil. I don't want to hear nothing from these couch potatoes. All right, the passing all this judgment that sat on her ass on a couch. Okay, I was there. I saw it. I know what happened. Okay, and so I can go on all day long with the stories, man. I saw what happened to women and kids over there, right? Not by Americans' hands, but by the Iraqis and the Iranians, for that matter. Oh yeah, the Iranians were there. Okay, don't let anybody tell you they're not there. They were there. Okay, which I don't understand that either. Why we tolerated their bullshit, but we did. In fact, the Iranians killed a lot of Americans. They sure as hell did. Again, nobody wants to talk about that, but who do you think sent their snipers over, and who built all those IEDs, built them into the walls and the buildings to kill Americans? Yeah, it wasn't the Iraqis. It was the Iranians. Okay. But anyway, so, you know, I saw firsthand what these assholes did to their people and the way they treat them. And I realized, you know, one day it's like, you know what? The hell with all the reasons. I got one good reason. It's to help these people.
Yeah.
Because I can just imagine that happening to our country, and it might happen someday. All right, we're well on that road, man. And everybody that said, "Oh, that'll never happen," the hell it won't, man. Okay, Iraq, they didn't think that was going to happen to them, and here we are, right? So, anyways, so going back to Tikrit, I remember. So what? There were a lot of funny shenanigans there, but one day there was actually me. We were co-located with another special missions. You know, let me just put it that way. And there was 4 of us from the same ACES organization, and one guy was an officer, and the 2 guys were his security, and then it was me as a paramilitary operative for them. So we had our own vehicles. We had, in fact, we had 2 up armored Hilux pickup trucks, and we had a Mercedes G5. And one of the up armored Toyota Hilux, not Hilux, I'm sorry, Land Cruisers, the alternator went out, right? So we really only had one Land Cruiser. We had I'm sorry, let me back up. We had a thin skin Land Cruiser and an up armored. The up armored one lost its alternator, so all we had now was the thin skin and the G5, which was up armored. So, which was not a big deal, but you know, I don't know what. So the decision was made one day to go down to about a 4-hour drive south of Tikrit towards Baghdad. And there was another base there, and they had an up armored Land Cruiser that had been destroyed, but the alternator was still good. Or the starter was good. The alternator. I call it the old golden alternator. And so the decision was made to drive down there and go recover that and install it back into our Land Cruiser and replace it, right, and get it up and running. So I kind of questioned that. I thought, well, why are we going all the way down for damn all that? We're going to run the gauntlet, right, for at least 4 hours to pick up the golden alternator, right? And for all I know, man, the boss, right, he maybe had his own little agenda that he didn't want us to know about, right? The 2 security guys, their job was just shut the fuck up and secure him. And then my job was to provide all the tactical oversight, you know, and all the stuff like that. Oh yeah, and we had one more guy who's an American interpreter, which you don't see too often, but he was American, and his name was Dave, and pretty good guy. And he always rode behind me in my car, in my vehicle, behind me, right, in my vehicle. So on this particular day, the 5 of us decided we're going to go down there and we're going to go pick up this golden alternator, right? We're going to make the drive. So all we have is one armored G5 Mercedes and a thin skin.
Dale, I think we lost Dale. Is my Wi-Fi on? The fuck? I think Dale's. Let me text Dale. Sorry for everybody listening. This happened the last time we did an American Badass episode. Oh, we lost Dale. I'll text him right now for everybody listening. Now it's just, is this my internet or his? What the fuck is going on? Let's see. Let's connect to. Gonna have to connect to my special Wi-Fi. Dale? Dale?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think that was me. I don't think that was you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So
we're good. Sorry. So yeah.
So I'll pick it up from right there. So, anyways, the five of us drive down, and it's about a 4 to 5 hour drive. It's going to be a long ride, and off we go. So we've got me and the guy with me we'll call him Jimmy, right? He was riding next to me, and then we had the two security guys and the American interpreter in the lead vehicle. And so we're cruising down. Actually, the area we're going to is in the vicinity of Balad, Iraq, and we were cruising along. And the first village we came in, probably about an hour into the drive or so, I noticed that there was a lot of people coming out as we're cruising through the township, and then all of a sudden, one of the guys comes out and opens up on us with weapons, started opening up fire. And what was really bizarre, and I talk about this all the time, about when I talk about firearms and ballistic wounding factors and things like that. But I actually had a bullet bounce off the glass of my thin-skinned vehicle, literally at my head level, my window. It hit it at a ricochet and bounced off the glass. It didn't actually penetrate, which was really bizarre because when it made contact, it almost sounded like a tuning fork went off in my ear, and I couldn't hear anything for about 3 hours, man. It was just a constant ringing sound. So that was our first ambush on the way down. We hauled ass out, got out of there. And then we made it to our objective. We linked up with the boss at the other site, and we had our tea. We talked about what's going on in the world, and then we got our alternator. We loaded it up, and we headed back. And then on the way back, this is where things got a little crazy, man. So, of all the firefights I've ever been in, I've never been scared. I've never been scared. I don't care if I've been ambushed. I've never been scared. It's like it's the weirdest damn thing, right? And so again, maybe it's just because I'm too confident. Maybe I'm just too damn dumb. I don't know, but I don't know. But I've never been scared. However, coming back, we're cruising along the Tigris River, right? And if you can just imagine, on both sides of the road, you have all these date palm trees, right? Actually, it was very nice, very picturesque, right? A lot of palm trees, kind of a jungly, kind of reminded me like out of a cartoon, like out of Flintstone or something, man. All the palm trees in the river, and there's one little, asphalt road, and there was a lot of people out there, farming their fields, and a lot of agriculture going on. And this road was kind of like winding through the area there, and then I remember we made this hard left turn, and then we got on a straightaway, and then we had a right turn coming up, and it was kind of starting to open up a little bit, and there was a car out in front of us just driving along, and so the G5 was in front of us, and as soon as he got behind the other car, he gunned and got around me, he took off, and then I was waiting for my opportunity to get around him and do the same. And so I had a 5-speed manual transmission with a 305 V8 in this particular Toyota Land Cruiser. So it had some balls to it, man. It was thin skin too. And so I get behind the car, and I'm waiting for my chance, and I drop it in the third gear, get on the gas. I'm passing the car. And just as my rear right quarter panel passed the other car's front left quarter panel, it was like all hell broke loose, man. I mean, all hell broke loose. And I'm on the gas. I'm probably already doing 45, 50 miles an hour in third gear, maybe more. And the window started blowing out. Just the sound was deafening, right? And my first thought was, I knew we made contact, but I thought that the guy in the car was the one that opened up on us, right? That's all I could, because where we're at, I couldn't see anything on the roads because it was kind of opening up, and right. And so, but actually what it was a far ambush. And the guys that opened up on us with a minimum of a PKM machine gun, because that's the bullets I picked out of my vehicle, 7.62 by 54. And, but they were on the left side. So I'm thinking there's the attacks coming from the right rear from the other car, but we're actually getting hit from probably around 2:00 on my left side. And if I had to guess, I'd say the range was 100 meters, something like that. And so I just, I kept it in third gear. I floored it and by the time Jimmy could get on the radio and tell the lead car we just made contact, I already went blowing by him, right? And they saw the windows and shit shot out, right? I'm driving with my hair on fire, like, holy shit, and then they start, they start chasing us, and we hobbled down the road, maybe another, I don't know, another quarter mile or so, and then I had to stop the car because I had flat tires and stuff. The car was a wreck, and so we pull over, and the area we pulled up now was kind of wooded again, kind of undulating terrain a little bit. And I had to pull the car over. It's like, we're not going nowhere. Right. And so I pull over. Well, earlier down the road, before we got into this mess, we had passed an American patrol. It was 2 Humvees with an APC, an M113 APC in the middle of it, right? Armed personnel carrier, the old M113s. And basically it was just a small patrol. We already blown past them a while back. Anyways, we made contact. We're sitting there. And now there's a lot of cars starting to come along, and they're slowing down and they're looking to see what's going on. And so it's making it very hard for me to monitor and watch everybody, because I don't know who's got a gun. It's starting to get really congested right there in this spot that we're in, and we can't go anywhere. And again, we're in between these palm groves and date palm groves. And so the decision was made, let's change the wheels and let's try to salvage this vehicle, get the hell out of Dodge. And I remember looking at Jimmy going, Jimmy, the hell with that. Take the AT4 out and let's freaking blow this thing in place and all pile in your vehicle and get the hell out of here. No, we can save this, Like, fuck, man. And so a lesson learned, right? And so one of my jobs was, like, for example, my vehicle is make sure that my vehicle was always combat ready. That meant, it's got a full tank of gas, oil is good, everything. It's got all the maintenance it needs. Plus, it's got a spare tire. That might be important, right? It's got a lug wrench in it and a jack, all those things in case I change the tire, right? Well, what I did not know, I checked all that shit. Like, yep, got that, good, got all that. What I didn't know was there on that particular vehicle, there was an adapter that goes between the lug wrench and the lug nuts. Now, I don't know why the hell they came up with that, but it was like that big, just big enough to lose, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it wasn't there. And I didn't know that they had to have one of those, right? And so we get out there and like, all right, jack it up, get the lug wrench out. And I was like, the lug wrench will fit. Yeah, because there's another piece that goes in between that. They're like, oh, shit, man. so I'm like, I said, blow it. Get AT4 out, just blow it up, man. Let's get out of here, man. I'm getting like really nervous now, right?
Yeah.
So this was the first time I was ever really scared. In fact, when I got hit, I was figuratively sleeping at the wheel for the first time ever. I mean, I was like cruising along the countryside, 45, 50 miles an hour, enjoying the ride, the scenery. I was like, my mind was in a different place, not where I needed to be, right? When it happened, it caught me by total surprise. And it freaked me out. I was not ready for what I just reacted, though. I just got on the gas and freaking hauled ass, But it's the first time I've ever been scared, ever been really like scared, like, oh shit, that was close, man. Because I literally had bullets going by my head through the glass, right? PKM. And in fact, I set my interpreter in the seat behind me when we got to the base. Well, sure enough, if he was sitting behind me that day, he would have took one right through the melon, man. It was perfect shot, right? Through and through the car. And so all this kind of freaked me out already. And I'm still not quite, I'm not normal yet. And now they want to change tires. And I'm like, man, there's more people coming. It's getting freaking spooky out here, And so then I see the American patrol coming, right? The 2 Humvees and the 113. Like, oh, thank God, right? And they come out and flag them down. I stop them. And there's a lieutenant in the vehicle. I said, hey, sir, I said, listen, man, we just got smacked back there. You can see, you know, we're gonna try to salvage this vehicle and get it out of here. Would you mind, you know, pulling security for us and helping us? Yeah. And so he did. You know, he put the Humvees on both ends, positioned the M113, you know, tactical overwatch with the 50 cal on top of it, you know. So we had some coverage now, you know, we had some guys there. And he laughed. He goes, yeah, we get hit here every 3 days, about every 2 to 3 days. We get ambushed, you know, ambush alley, no big deal. I was like, great. And
It's like weather.
yeah, he kind of like, yeah, no big deal, man. It happens to us all the time, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we finally, you know, so what we ended up doing is getting we had a socket set, man, and we pulled it out with the, you know, ratchet and basically used a socket set to break the lug nuts on the vehicles to change the tires. And that's what we did. So we fixed it and got our shit together, got in the vehicle, hauled ass, went back home, you know. And then I remember, so we had one of the unit commanders with us. We were co-located with a unit, and I won't mention his name either. He's a funny guy though. And I came in and I told them what had just happened to us, and they were all laughing. Oh yeah, it's ambush alley. It happens all the time. I'm like, man, you could have told us that before we rolled out here because you knew where we were going, right? They didn't fail to mention that part, right? So, so that was my little experience that day, man. You know, 2 ambushes in one day, all, you know, in search of the golden alternator, right? And so, you know, I basically plucked out 7.62 by 54, which is PCAM machine gun. So they hit us with a PCAM for sure. They shot my car up pretty good with it, and thank God nobody got hit. Because I mean, literally, man, I mean, around like right behind my head, you know, I mean, they were close. My goddamn, I was so close at that time. But you know, what it did is it was a wake up call. Like, all right, Comstock, you know what, dude? Just when you let your guard down is when shit always happens, man. And here we go. You know, was not ready for that, and it really did. It really freaked me out, man. And but I needed that, you know, to get back, you know, get frost again, you know, and stay more alert down the road.
Yeah.
That's
kind of a weird. There's a philosophical aspect to that of like, man, if you're just driving along and just took a bullet to the dome, like you wouldn't even know it happened. That's such like a weird.
No.
That's such a weird. What would it? You just not hear. What is? It's just hard to wrap my head around. It's like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? It's like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah,
that's weird.
I would have never known it. If I had got hit in the head, which he just missed me by a couple of inches, if I had come off the accelerator just a little bit, he'd have got me, right? Or who knows, man. But yeah, I wouldn't have known it. You're right. It would have been all over just like that in the car. And more than likely, what would have happened at that speed, I'd have run off the road, probably flipped the vehicle. You know, the other guy next to me probably would have been hurt or dead. The other guy's trying to come back. It would have turned into no shit of serious, we'll call it tick, you know, troops in contact. It would have been bad, right? Like, oh shit, who are you going to call? Right? We got 3 vehicles with the Army that are going to go around the corner, but that's it, man. It's not like there's a whole lot of us out there, right? So that could have got really crazy had that guy been, you know, the bad guy been lucky enough to, you know, to drill me in the head. The other vehicle was good. You know, it was an up armor G5. You know, unless they were shooting API armor piercing rounds or, you know, armor piercing incendiary, it probably would have survived the hits. But he got us, man. Thin skinned, you know, freaking, you know, lit us up. So Tikrit was pretty interesting, as was Sadr City for me, you know. And you know, it's really easy to get complacent when nothing happens to you. You know, I figured, you know, I had my ambush earlier today. I'm good. And damn, another one, right? On the way back, you know? So, you just never know, man. And especially in Iraq, man, it was a wild, wild west. It really was. You just could not, you know, you could just not drop your guard. But the reality is, even in Afghanistan, you can't drop your guard. Just when you think, oh, that's cool, nobody's going to hit us out here, boom, IED goes off, or something, you know, RPG goes skipping off the hood of your vehicle, you know, some weird shit happens, you know. So, you know, it's another, you know, it's something that I was going to tell you this earlier was, I was talking about the PTSD. The problem is when you experience all this and you come home, it's hard for your family to understand that. It's hard to tell your wife what you've been, where you've been, and what you've been doing. It's hard for your non-military friends to understand that. And it's hard to explain it to them, to where they go, oh yeah, I get it, man. I kind of live in the moment with you, you know. And even if they understand it, they don't understand the other aspect of it, the fear, man, you know, the terror that goes along with that, you know. And they can only imagine it, but when you've actually lived it, you know, and you see somebody else's head exploding next to you, it's like, wow, you know, that's kind of hard to simulate even in your mind, right? And so a lot of guys have trouble, and you know, and I'll share this again with everybody else out there. You know, I had a great marriage, man. I had a great marriage. 12 years with, you know, not my last one, but the one prior to that. um, and and this woman I was married to for 12 years, and I couldn't ask for a better wife. Really couldn't have. But what happened was I spent a good 9.5 years of my marriage, 9 months out of the year, deployed, overseas in combat. And if I wasn't overseas in combat, I was stateside in some kind of other training environment or operational environment, right? So I was gone a lot. But what was starting to happen was, and why did I do it, right? So my mom asked me one day, my mom's got a German accent. She's hardcore German. And she always calls me Dale Allen. Dale Allen, why do you do this, right? And why do you do, yeah, why do you do this? You know, why do you have to go do this? You know, you have a wife and kids. And I remember telling my mom one day in front of my dad, I said, Mom, I said, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
It's not like everybody's lining up to do this,
Yeah.
right? And so, and I said, I've got the skills, I got this experience, I've got the guts to go do it. You know, I want to do this, and I'm doing it for a purpose, man. You know, and I'm doing it for our country. I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for my friends. I'm doing it for the Patriots. You know, and so I remember she said that to me, and so I kept going down range, and what ends up happening is, it reminds me of the movie when we, what was it, When We Were Soldiers, with Mel Gibson, about Vietnam. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And they were spinning up to go over for their first deployment, and he got the helicopters, you know, and he just couldn't wait to get over there, right? It's like, this man just can't wait to get there, wait to get there. Well, that feeling's real, man. So for me, I couldn't wait to go back. Every time I would come home, it's like, man, how much more time have I got home before I go back, man? I want to go back. Not because I didn't love my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
It's because you had to go back, man. And there's something about that experience, you know, if it's the adrenaline rush, I'm not sure what it is, but you feel like you're in a different world. You become a different person, and you're around people like you, and we're all making the same sacrifices for the same purposes. And because of that, there's this bond that you develop. And you can't, it's hard to explain, man. But every time I came back, the more I was going over and I would come back, the more I wanted to go right back. And and I remember it started, you know, extending some of my deployments, you know, from 60 days to 90 days. And I didn't care. I'm like, I'm good. Send me 120 days. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. I got into that mindset where it became an addiction, the adrenaline rush, knowing that, man, this could be my last deployment. And many times it should have been. And I walked away from it and go, okay, that was close. But here I am, right? Killing it. And but you never get it. You never, you know, you just seem to never get enough. For some of us, you don't, right? And it was not like we were drafted in doing it. You know, it was voluntary. I volunteered to do this. Actually volunteered even more because I was out of the service now. And I went back to the U.S. government and said, sign me up. I want to go in and do my part, man. And I'll do it in the most dangerous role possible. And I did. And so that actually killed my marriage. I had a great marriage that went south like really fast for, you know, weird shit happened. And I got to be honest with you, man, it was not, I'm not going to blame my wife or nothing like that. It was me, you know.
Sure.
In fact, I got to the point where like I want to go back, man. I mean, how crazy is that when you're looking at your wife and your little girl and you want to go to combat and you
Yeah.
don't want to stay home, right? And so that's the bizarro shit, man, that what you live with. And then you wonder if there's something wrong with you. So people talk about PTSD, and I'm wondering if, well, maybe I was crazy. Maybe I have some issues, and that's why I kept going back. It's like I keep tempting fate. But it ended up, I lost my marriage over that, and and I apologize a lot to my ex-wife for it. I can't undo it, but it is what it is. And
I don't think it's absurd to want to go back. I mean, I know it's a movie, but the movie Hurt Lockers, where the guy is like the EOD specialist, and throughout
yeah,
the entire movie, it shows like a countdown of how many days till he gets to go home. And you think this, and he keeps having these near misses with death, and then he finally goes home, and you think it's like, oh, he's good, and it just shows him, and he's at like the grocery store, he's like chopping peppers for dinner, and it's just kind of like the most boring thing. And like the end of the movie is him redeploying again, and he's got a big smile on his face. But it's,
yeah,
I mean, obviously, I've never seen combat, but I've thought about it, and at least in my, maybe I'm crazy, but I'm like, I see where it makes sense, and not even just with this episode you talking about it. I've thought about it before, and I'm like, why would you keep going back? And I'm like, man, there's got to be something about, in a world where everything's gray, like even money, it like inflates, it doesn't have the same value. It's like, is an election stolen? You get banned on Facebook, and you go to the grocery store, and it's just the next kind of just lukewarm shit meal after the next, and it's just, and then you go to combat, where instead of this gray world of semi this and semi that, you go to a world of absolutes. I die or he dies. No other option. And I'm with other guys on my side who are like, yo, they die or we die. And it's not a referee. It's not a game where you blow the whistle and you undo that. It's like, man, that bullet missed my head by inches. It's a world. I've thought about that a lot. And I'm like, I get the attraction to it. It's reality. It's, you have
yeah,
to worry about, I got to make enough money on the podcast so I can pay rent, versus if you went and lived in the middle of the wilderness, there's no landlord. It's, am I going to be able to build my hut? Am I going to be able to kill a bear for food? Or is the bear going to eat me? And am I ready for the winter? There's a peace in that world of absolutes where it's not, hey, you do this and you get the new collared shirt. I'm sure it's addicting. You go there and it's like, he dies or I die. We got to change this tire on this fucking, the golden alternate, whatever. Fucking A, they're opening up fire on us. They're shooting RPGs. I don't think it means you love your wife or daughter less. I think the vast majority of men, if we could get a taste of it, we'd instantly go from like, that's dangerous, to like, that was that, it's like the movie Fight Club. All these guys, they work at like Walmart, but at night they beat the shit out of each other and they love it. I'm sure if
yeah.
I experienced it, I'm sure I would love it.
Yeah, you're right. I remember. So when I was over there, so then when I'm there, and just kind of put it in context, right? So normally it's just day to day, nothing's going on. Then you get an intel hit, something's, you got a potential target or something to look into, and then you go out at night. It's always at night, right? Usually it was at night. This would happen during the day. This particular thing. But normally it's, they're nighttime operations. You go out at night, you do things, you come back, you go to sleep, you get up, you eat, you work out, you prepare for the next night's events, right? And but the reality is sometimes after a while of being downrange, you're like, man, I really miss, going to the movies. I miss going, whatever, a baseball game, I miss going watch my kids play sports, going out dancing with my wife at the bar, whatever, right? You think about all those things, and then you come back. You can't wait to come back and do them all. And then when you do them, it's like, that was fucking boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just does not have the same effect anymore, man. And so when you start looking back at what used to excite you, no longer does, because you realize that you've been in a place where there's more excitement. You get a bigger adrenaline rush, like downrange. Then it's hard. It's like a drug, man. It really is like a drug.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you want more of it, right? You want to get back into it, knowing full well, man, you could overdose. This
Yeah.
could be your last. This could be your last trip, literally.
Yeah.
But you go back to the well, and so, and you know what? You don't ever lose that, man. at least I haven't, I'm not, again, I can't speak for other guys out there, but for me personally, I like this shit, and I hate to say it, it's not because I'm a bloodthirsty murderer killer guy. I like fighting, whether it's with fisticuffs, or whether it was a firearm, man. I like fighting. I was born to be a warrior. My dad was in the army for 20 years. My whole family is military oriented. It's just in my DNA and my blood. But, and this, we'll talk about this down the road. We talked about my mercenary work, but, my last appointment was 4 years ago. I'm still out there freaking slinging lead at the bad guys. And truth be told, if I get a call today or tonight, say, hey, we need you, wherever, someplace on the planet needs some help, and the money's good, I'll probably go, man.
Fuck
because, it's there, man. And my wife, that's her biggest fear, is that I'm gonna, because the last time I lied to her, I'll save that story, but told her I was gonna go do something else. But yeah, it is what it is, man. But so those are my experiences, some of my experiences. There's gonna be more, Tikrit, Baghdad, Iraq, crazy place, dangerous place. The experience is, it can't explain it. That's the problem you have with telling your family. Nobody understands it, man. They really don't get their head around it. And so a lot of guys don't tell the story. That's why I wanted to go with this earlier. Was most guys won't tell the story. They don't want to talk about it because they know nobody understands. My former father-in-law was a Green Beret in Vietnam. And he did some really cool stuff. I'm the only guy who would talk about it to him, with, his wife didn't know, his daughter didn't know, nobody freaking knew. And even I didn't know that much, but I knew enough to know that, yeah, the guy's got a Purple Heart, he's seen some shit, and, but he really didn't talk about it. He didn't watch war movies. He just kind of like separated himself from all that, and he knew nobody will understand. And it's true. Nobody understands. No, my ex-wife didn't understand. So probably about 4 months ago, we had a conversation. All right. And we've been married. We've been divorced since, 14 years now. And I told her, I said, I'm sorry for everything that happened. And, I was in a weird place. I did some weird things. And I said, but the truth be told, I told her what happened to me. I said, that's what happened. It was nothing you did or didn't do. It was all me. And, I wrecked the perfect marriage after 12 years. Literally, I wrecked the perfect marriage for 12 years. Now, I'm married now. Don't get me wrong. I have a great marriage again. This is going to be right up there with the greats. But, not including this marriage here, that one was a really good marriage. And we had it all, and it was going like that, and I can't explain it. I can't, realizing at the time what was going on, I just could not. It's like a drug addict, man. I could not turn it off. I couldn't walk away. I couldn't put the crack pipe down.
Yeah.
I had to go back to it, and it cost me a lot, man. And when people don't believe that, but it's true. Maybe not for everybody. Maybe there's a lot of guys that don't want to be a part of that and want to walk away. But for guys like me, in the unit, some of the SEALs, Green Berets, Rangers that signed up for this shit, it's because we were junkies for it, man.
Yeah.
And, and there's a price that goes with that. Besides your life, your personal life, all can be lost, arms and legs and everything else. Right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I consider myself lucky, but next time we talk, I got some other. All right, so next time we'll talk about the deer hunter, which is my next chapter, which is kind of funny.
Fuck yeah. I've told that story to my dad before from your book. It's a great story.
Yeah, the weird thing is, and I don't know why, but all this weird, it's not weird, but I find myself in all these unusual scenarios and situations. Just kind of stumble upon them. It's like, damn. And when, I think a lot of people can't believe they actually happened to me when I tell them the story. So sometimes I don't even like to talk about it, but this actually all happened to me, and I don't have to embellish it. Everything I'm telling is the truth, and it's not a matter of perception. It's like this is actually what happened,
Yeah.
man. And and so it gets better as we go along here, man. I'm gonna. Yeah, I like the deer hunter story as well, and we don't have time to talk
No,
about it now, but
save it for
we'll
next.
save it for next time, man. So, anyways, that's what I wanted to cover tonight in the book, and again, for everybody's listening out there, I'm it's actually 1:00 in the morning here in Bali, Indonesia, Monday morning, and I live here. I also have a home in Florida. I spend most of my time in Bali. I have a security business here. I am now also, kind of the proud owner of a fish farm, a catfish farm. Actually, my wife just started a fish farm, right? Catfish farm. And that's her little project. So, but by proxy, because I'm married to her, kind of makes me the catfish king too, right?
I think so. I think that on top of everything, youngest ever Delta Force, also catfish king. update the resume.
I know, right? Anyways, I don't even want nothing to do with that. I said, I got enough things on my plate. You deal with that. So she's out there. Yeah, she's out there hoeing and digging not hoeing like hoeing, but the hoe digging the soil up and laying it down and building the bricks up and building the pools and stuff. But that's good for her, man.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's her deal.
Fuck yeah.
All right, man.
Well, cool, man, thanks for opening up. That was a unique episode, kind of a glimpse into your mind, and I'm sure there are guys, the vast majority of which are not like me, but I'm sure there are some guys who have kind of operated at your level or close to it. I would imagine, and I can't speak for them, I would imagine that they're probably nodding their head and they're like, yeah. I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. I think it makes perfect sense. It's probably an adrenaline rush like nothing else. How can anything compare to it? And I think it makes sense. And it's yeah, man, I appreciate you being candid with that. And we'll pick it up next week. So Dale Comstock, author of American Badass. I will put it in the description, stick it in the top comment. Go buy it, you assholes. It's a great book. And till next week, Dale.
All right, brother. Thanks.
Yeah, man.